Hey listeners, it's CJ here, and this is Avocation to Climb, the monthly, well, let's be honest, the whenever we can be asked to put the controller down podcast that focuses on Gamerscore, the games we love, Xbox, and the Australian leaderboards. That's right, if you like the thrill of the hunt, the chase of the Chivos, then you've come to the right place. Raise your degenerate glass with us as we explore all these wonderful things. This month we're looking at the recent competition we all took part in. We're looking at the Australian leaderboards and the staggering process that Rogue 1992, Mephisto4thewin, Jeremy J1, and look, even that dude we don't know, Eden Weeks, he's up there as well. They've all been smashing it, and I hear the Sony pony, he didn't do too bad. Well, for a week or two. We're joined tonight by a special guest as well, Madeyepadeye. This dude is, well, look, there's no other way to say it. He's kind of crazy, and this beandive that he's fallen in love with, I suppose, and he's approaching 9 years. But look, I'm going to get out of the way. We'll get into all that and more. Now, don't forget, we're a small little podcast, and being irregular, we don't have all the mainstream sort of push that most of the established podcasts have. So look, if you like this, if you want to be part of this degeneracy with us, then by all means share it with other people you think might be interested as well. It all helps in getting out the word. Look, I can't tell you when the next episode's going to be, but look, you've got one here, so that should be enough for you. Have fun, game hard. We'll see you around the boards. So I'm joined here tonight by Mephisto4thewin. He's back, of course, the #1 Gamerscore holder in Australia, and he brings with him a friend. Now, I first ran into this guy, this Madeyepadeye. He has a wonderful name, but I first ran into him as this guest on Real Gamerscore podcast where he was talking beandive. I'm going to get out of the way, but we're going to touch on that, I think, probably quite heavily in tonight's episode, because they sort of introduced the concept to me, but I think we can dig deeper because it's a really degenerate concept, and that's why I love it so much. He perhaps owns more games, I have a feeling, than both Meph and I, or at least as many, and he's just doing this amazing thing of one achievement per different game every day. I could not pull out like he does, but I'm impressed that he manages it. So how are you tonight and this morning, guys?
I'm great, CJ. How are you?
I'm pretty good. And Paddy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a nice early morning for me.
Yeah, it's very much the other side of the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are both time travelers in my eyes.
So look, it begs the obvious question. How did you two meet?
Through one of your other hosts, Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'd known Rogue for probably about a year, and he decided that we were going to try and do something called the G task, and he brought Mephisto into that, and then since then we've been friends.
Yeah, that's about right. We were theorising before, roughly around 9 to 10 years ago, we think. So I've known Paddy for a long, long time. Back then our scores were a lot lower, games played counts were a lot lower, and our tolerance for Rogue was a lot higher.
It makes it sound like you've done away with him tonight, but he, of course, engaged with. Now, I want to ask you about this as well, because I'm not like massively over the world of boxing, but there was a big boxing match this afternoon. Is that right, Paddy? Is that what was going on?
Yeah, there was. Basically Tyson Fury was fighting Wilder. It was their third match, and Tyson Fury is a notorious, I don't really like using the term, but he classes himself as a gypsy king. So obviously from the travelling background, and I do know that Rogue is from that sort of descendant of people. So he was highly anticipating the fight. And me being from the UK, and I'm not a massive boxing fan, but I do on the occasion do silly things and wake up and watch boxing or UFC and things like that. So I didn't watch any of the other boxing. I literally got up half an hour before the fight was meant to start and basically watched it.
Okay, so it's a legitimate excuse. But look, see how you go today, Paddy. If you get to the end of this and you're like, fuck, it wasn't dreadful, then perhaps you'll come back when we can get Rogue on as well and we can have a full reunition of this of this group. But look, it leads me to the next question. I think you're involved with this, Paddy. If you're not, I apologize. You can learn along with me, I suppose. What is the Gankers? And I noticed that the team we played under was called Gankers Reunited. Is that right? What are they? Or what were they?
Right, so from my experience, Rogue's always been the person that decided what the team name was, and he's a massive League of Legends player, or he was.
Ooh.
And Ganker is a type of, I believe, person within the realm of League of Legends. I don't know what role it is because I know there's like junglers and things like that are like mid lane players, but a ganker is a term for a certain player within League of Legends.
Ah, okay. So this is not like a long-term name you've played under or something like this before.
Well, it is for us now. I think the first year we did G-Task, we were under another name, and I can't remember the exact name. I don't know if Mephisto could come in with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it was Bragandiath or something like that. Something to do with well, I don't know what the books are, but the Neverwinter game. It's all based on a book, and it's something to do with that. That's what Bragandiath is, but I don't know because we've always gave creative control for that with Rogue, and this is what happens. We end up with weird names.
Okay, that's all
Normally
right then,
Rogue.
because I thought maybe he'd just got pissed or something the night before, and he'd meant to write Wankers Reloaded, and he's come up with Gankers instead. So look, it makes more sense now. Now, obviously, you two have a lot of history in competitions as well. Perhaps we'll touch on that tonight. But why don't we lay the groundwork for the listeners, because this is such a sporadic podcast. It would be fair that they have no idea what we're even here talking about. But it is exclusively a Gamerscore, I suppose, or heavily Gamerscore, heavily degenerate podcast. There's no hustle here to be had. We're just gamers that enjoy the game, I suppose, and the chase of the leaderboards, and we don't shy away from it. With that in mind, why don't we turn to you, Meph, and why don't we have a look at the numbers? We did this last time as well. You guys are on fire, Paddy as well. How is it looking?
Well, not much has changed from last month, I suppose. I don't know when we recorded, but Rogue started scoring again. I think last time we spoke, he was on a break, I think, but we convinced him out of the break to join in a Gamerscore comp, which I think we'll talk about a bit later. And he was behind Eden, I think, but then he passed Eden very early on after his break and is now back ahead of Jeremy as well. So he smashed it last month and did just shy of 98,000. So he came back in a big, big way. I'm still in front. I did 73,000. Rogue was about 20,000 behind me, but it seems he stopped again. So good for me, bad for him, I suppose. Yeah, I think Jeremy's right behind him again due to him stopping. So I think any day now, Jeremy's going to go back ahead of him for second. He did 38,000 for that month. So I pulled right out because if you remember back, I think it was myself, Jeremy, Eden, Rogue. That was the top four in that order, and I was about 25,000 ahead of Jeremy. But now, due to me doing 70 and him only doing 40, it's right back out to almost 60. And Eden did 47,000. So a good month, but unfortunately fell down a place. I don't know how Rogue's how, but you do 47,000 in a month and you drop from third to fourth is pretty crazy. But he's gaining on Jeremy, and I think if you look at the way they're scoring, it'll be roughly around December, maybe January, that Eden's going to be right behind Jeremy, and then it's going to get real interesting because we're all going to be real close together by then, I think.
Well, I suppose it happens because of this competition that we'll get into. 2 weeks of madness and craziness. Do you have the overall numbers? I put you on the spot here for the year.
I do.
You group.
Yes,
yeah.
I do. Due to their scoring, Rogue and Eden have now both done 400,000 for the year. so far. Eden's almost 430. This doesn't include the 10 days of October, by the way. So they're probably even more, or they are even more. But yeah, Eden's 430 for the year. Rogue's 406,000 for the year. Jeremy's just short of 390,000, and I am 370. So I did fact check this. I think we spoke about it last week on a different show, but all four of us now have had our best years ever, and that was at the start of October. So that tells you a lot of things. It tells you how much we're all pushing each other, even though we're not really speaking about it much. We are, it's clear, and probably how much easier it is to get Gamerscore now. How much more easy games are coming out. Just every week there's, I don't know, 3, 4 every single week without fail, and some weeks are even more than that. So it's not too hard to get Gamerscore, but it's hard to, I suppose, getting 1,000 a day now isn't that hard, but getting closer to like 1,500 a day is, you have to look elsewhere and play a little bit of the longer stuff, and I suppose that's what we're doing now, pushing each other to play more and more.
It's not bad, I suppose. I suppose you're all only playing on one console there. You know, I'm on 372K for the year on Xbox. I turn it on occasionally too, Meth. But look, our guest is no slouch
Just ahead
here.
of me.
I know. Our guest is no slouch either on 275K. So look, there's plenty of gamer score to go around here and to be had. Why don't we drift then to this competition? Because we alluded to, we all played in a team of 4 or whatever else. 3 solid Xbox gamers and 1 just person, or banana as I refer to him, that just turned up at the last minute. Why would you extend an invite to a PlayStation gamer in a highly competitive, where some bastard drops 200K in a day Xbox event? What was going through your heads?
Well, I think sorry if I butted in there, Paddy, but I think I saw the contest first, and I thought this would be a great contest for Avocation to climb. It's a 4-man team, and there was 4 hosts, with Jeremy J1, and I thought, it'd be good publicity for the show. We'll go on there and we'll score much we can and beat Irish Warrior. That's what me and Irish Warrior have, not a crazy rivalry, but we have a little bit of a rivalry going back, a few different other comps. And it turned out when we first proposed the idea, Jeremy couldn't really commit. Like he could, but he thought he was going to let the team down. So we called in Paddy here, who's done a lot of Gamerscore comps with us before, and that's the team.
Now, Paddy, I was really happy to see your slow start in this competition, because I was like, shit, I'm going to be embarrassed here as the lowest scorer in this system or whatever else. And you were slow off the mark, but you still came in with 100K predominantly over the last few days. Now, I wanted to ask you, because you don't play high volume all the time. How do you, like something like this 2 weeks, although you did pace it over the last few days, are you just incredibly tired of playing these sort of games like this when you do it like that in a 2-day heavy stint? Or do you actually like the thrill of the hunt, I suppose?
I definitely miss the thrill of the hunt, because I used to do it. Well, when I say used to, I used to play a lot of Xbox, and over probably the last, well, since I've got a little girl who's 6, so since she was born, I sort of calmed down with competitions and heavily scoring. So I tend to only play my Xbox for maybe 2 hours a day. That might be quite a lot for some people, but 2 hours a day at like the most, except for weekends where I've got a little bit more time. But with the easy games, or when I say easy games, the 0 to 1 hour games, no, I don't tire from them because I don't do them very often anymore. So that 2 weeks was quite sort of easy going for me. The only issue I had for that 2 weeks is I was doing 12-hour shifts at work. So that's why I was very slow off the mark to begin with, because I knew what I could score and I knew what games I was going to do, and I could have probably done it sort of more spread out through the week, or the 2 weeks, should I say. But I just couldn't, because I was coming home from work and then I wanted to spend time with my family, and then I had to game because I didn't want to let you guys down. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge. So that last weekend, and also I was away for the first weekend with a group of friends that had already been organised before the competition started. So it all sort of wingled its way into I'm just going to try and blast as much as I possibly can do in the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that because, like, I worked consistently over the time and I actually sent Meph a message towards the end of the first week. I'm like, oh, this is going to be fine. I'm going to get 100K, like, no problems, like in a week or something. And thinking this is the PlayStation with 1,000 stacks of every game. And then I was like, shit, that doesn't, you think I would know this by now. But I thought, well, at least I've got this Paddy covered or whatever. And then I see him, and this is the thing that I hate about these competitions because you go okay for a minute and then you see everybody just slowly clawing their way back at you and they eventually get you and it's like a paralysis, I suppose, Gamerscore paralysis. But I saw you coming and I thought this bastard is going to run over me in like 2 days of gaming and I've been here playing this shit for 2 weeks. But like I'm glad you did, but when I saw it there. But the highlight for me was, you probably don't remember this because I think you were in a drunken hungover haze, but you posted in the group, we won't discuss where you were or what you're doing, but I think you're slightly under the weather perhaps, and on the back on the little bit of the screen we could see in the picture, I could tell it was the Z Office, which is a poor reflection on myself as well, that I would know that off like a half a centimeter of the screen or something. But it was a highlight of the comp for me, sir, so thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, ironically, you say that I was under weather. My friend, who is also a gamer, who's on TA, called Captain Cookie One, and there was a couple of other friends that I game with quite a bit that were all at his house. And ironically, me and him stayed up until 5 o'clock on the Friday night drinking rum, and they were coming.
That'll do it.
Yeah, so because like I said, I've got a small child. My wife and me and her stayed at my friend's house, whereas everybody else stayed in a hotel locally. So they left his house at a reasonable 1 a.m. in the morning, and me and my friend decided it would be a good idea to finish a bottle of rum between ourselves from the moment they left to 5 o'clock. So they came to his house the following morning thinking that we were going to go out for breakfast, and both of us were completely dead.
Yeah.
And I only dived the Z Office. I didn't finish it that day. I saved that gem until the following Saturday.
I couldn't imagine playing that drunk. Oh my god.
It's hard. It's hard to do. Yeah, I'm impressed.
The time's pretty tight. That
Yeah,
5 minute time is pretty tight.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that drunk. Wow.
There's definitely something like I tied in with that, I think, because last week, whenever it was, or the week before, or whatever else, they had this National Trophy Hunting Day. It's an American thing on PlayStation where you come together and get as many trophies as you can. And I thought, because I've been playing so much Xbox, I thought it'll be really fun to just get 1,000 PlayStation trophies in a day and set a record, then just fuck off for a year or something. And because we have, as we said, so many stacks, but so I had it all planned out or whatever. And I want to get into this and ask you about your planning for this event and planning in general in a second. It's where we're leading. But I had it all planned out. I'd been updating the spreadsheet while I was in the Xbox event or whatever else and figuring out, not necessarily for platinums, but just how many trophies games had. The bigger the number, the better for me or whatever else. Mm-hmm. Then the night before, I decided it would be a great night to start playing some online poker again and absolutely get shit-faced and not go to bed until 4 in the morning, and the event starts at 6. And so, I still proceeded to get 900 and something trophies, but I know what it's like to try and play like that. So it's not fun at all.
Especially as I had 4 very angry wives and wives/partners looking at me thinking, you absolute idiot. What have you done? You've ruined the whole day for the rest of us. My friend didn't get out of bed until 5 p.m.
Jesus.
And we've got a meal booked at 6 p.m.
I tip my hat to you, Mahogany. That's I won't go down that line. But no, I tip my hat to you. But what I do want to ask is about this planning, because you both alluded to it. Obviously, for this 2-week event, a lot of these events, I find the most exciting thing is actually planning and making lists of what you have and what you're going to acquire and to get through. So, Paddy, and this is going to lead in, to the dive in a moment as well here. But obviously, this must take up a large amount of your time planning everything that you're going to do, with your gaming.
Regarding planning for the dive, I don't. Other than if I look at the base achievements, and there's 2 or 3 gamers on TA that are really high up in the sort of games played leaderboard. So 9 out of 10 times when I look at a game, one of them has already got an achievement in it. So I then look at the achievement they've got because they just dive it. So it's pretty much guaranteed to be 1, the quickest, or 2, the easiest achievement to get out of the game. And then obviously if it's an Xbox One game, most of the time, even though it's broadly shit, they've got a time. So it will tell me, oh, they've played it for 12 minutes or they've played it for 36 minutes, and I can gauge that. So I'll use their base a lot of the time because I've only played, I say only, nearly 4,000 games, and there's some of them over 6,000 games played on their tags. So I use them as a basis for the dive. But regarding the planning for the competition, I trawled through my games that I'd started that was 0 to 1 hours. So, because obviously I didn't want to jeopardize my dive and start. I could have started and got a lot more gamer score on games that I hadn't played. And obviously, with the 1 week notice of the competition, I had 7 days where I could dive a new game. I then had another 14 days while we were in the competition to then dive another 14 games. So even if you look at that, that's 21,000 G if they've not got any title updates or anything like that. So I kind of went through my base of my games, looked at anything that was 0 to 1, and then wrote a spreadsheet of the games that I hadn't got any achievements except for the first one, and then I put them at the top. And then if I got 2 or 3, they went under it, and then I moved to 1 to 2 hours, and then I stopped there because I knew once it got over sort of the 1 to 2 hours, they weren't useful unless they'd got quite a few. Like I did action wrestling, and that had got 400,000 thousand. I wish it was thousand. 100 G that I could just do in 10 minutes, and I would just put it on quickly, smash the game that I had the quick 300, 400 G, and then move on.
Yeah.
So there was quite a bit of planning.
Your planning went a bit more than that, though, didn't it? Because I remember having a chat with you before the comp started, and you were obviously, like you said, you were picking games to dive that you were going to play in the comp in that week before, but you were also picking games that had a really low gamer score value as the dive, so you didn't waste points either. So you
Yeah,
had to
because
even plan a bit further.
yeah, there is a strange thing with a lot of these easy games that the first achievement's always 100 G
Yeah,
or
that's
50 G
true.
or 75 G. So I did spend probably about 2 hours at work looking at every 0 to 1 hour game that I had not dived and look at what the first achievement was. And if it was below 25G, it went on the list. If it was more than 25G, it just got scrapped.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, I didn't really. I wanted to maximize. If I could get a 5G achievement and then I could get 995G out of the game for the competition, it was getting dive because that was the best. Obviously, once it was only for the first 7 games
That's right.
because that was the lead to the competition. After that, it didn't matter if it was 100G. So I just went through and got the 7 games that was gonna maximize what I could then put in towards the team.
Yeah. I never asked you this, Meph. I'm interested because, you're in a different position to both of us in a way that you're fairly up to date in most of the games that have come out or whatever else. So you're similar to me on the PlayStation. So how do you go about planning? Like, I suppose you have to leave a big, Hail Mary window for some whole lot of stuff to come out, I suppose, in a week as well. But like, do
Well,
you actually have a list, or how do you, because I've never asked you this, how do you sort of go about planning on what you're going to play?
Well, for the comp in general, like you said, I kind of had the opposite problem to you two. I couldn't write a list. I just didn't have the games. I told Rogue from the start I'll be happy with 50k for the comp, and I did just over 60. So basically, what I did was I had a little bit more than a week's notice than Paddy had. I think I had about 9 days from when I first said let's do this comp to when it started. So I didn't play almost anything. Like, I've got an achievement streak, so for those 9 days, I didn't pop. I only popped, to keep my streak alive. I didn't play anything. So I had 9 days worth of easy games, which was about 3 or 4, and I had a few title updates that I was saving in case Jeremy really caught up. But it was only like 2 or 3. And then from there, I was scratching for points. And I had to, so I really only had, I did have a list, but that list was only about 10K. And I knew I'd, bought a few of the ACA Neo Geo games, which I've said before I probably wouldn't play, but this comp kind of forced my hand. I hate fighting games. I can't stand them. So I had a few there that was written on my list, but yeah, I really was just scratching for points for the 2 weeks and somehow managed to get 60.
There's really something to be said for those ACA games, because I wasn't going to touch them either, but I got sucked into them. And you know that you should stop playing them. It's like a
Yeah.
time differential. You're getting sucked in, but it's not worth the reward, the time sink anymore. But you're also determined just to finish it or get as close as you can. So they're a real mixed bag, and they're all fighting games, as you say, or most of them. So.
Pretty much, they all are, aren't they? There's a couple of driving games. There's a couple of shmups, but mostly they're just fighting games. They're all the same game, really. And
Yeah.
I'm just so bad at them. And I look on TA and they have 1,070 TA. So 80% of the people on TA that have played them have completed them, and I can't even do the caravan score for the first achievement. And I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? Why can't I even get one? And then, like you said, it's, do I keep trying and maybe I might pop that 80G and maybe even get the next one? Or it's just, yeah, they're nightmares. I'm just no good at them. I can't do them.
What I thought was hilarious was it's an Xbox competition, and for the first 2 days around work, I spent the whole time playing those on a PC. So I didn't go anywhere near the Xbox. It was a wonderful experience. But this is what I understand about cross platform, cross play, all this sort of garbage you're lucky to have on this wonderful system. Now,
Yep.
look, we're heading towards the dive, but before we do, why don't we touch on some games we've been playing or whatever else, because they like that a bit too, I'm told. Why don't we start with you, Paddy? Because I know you've been playing something I've never even heard of.
Yeah, so going back to on a Friday night, I play with some close friends in the UK, and we normally heavily gravitate towards multiplayer because we have a couple of drinks and we shoot each other in the face. So our game of the sort of Friday night recently has been Splitgate. So it's heavily Halo orientated, but then it's got portals in it from Portal. So you fire a portal one side and then you fire another portal next to you and you go through it and you shoot people through the portals. So if you like Halo, it's I don't know how they've managed to pull this game off because it literally rips Halo's mechanics, guns off, but it blew up on the PC and they've brought it to Xbox and PlayStation. So it's a fun multiplayer game that I've been playing with some buddies of mine.
Is this a free to play?
It is free to play, yes. It was in beta for a little while, and they had made as soon as it went onto the consoles, it had a major issue. The first sort of 2 to 3 weeks, they didn't realize how popular the game was going to be, and their servers just basically shut themselves. And within that, they actually got funding through someone who's managed to help them stress test the servers. There was times where you could be waiting 2 to 3 hours to get into the game if you wanted to play it. But now it's got to the point where you can load the game up and instantly get pretty much on with no issues.
Yeah. And is it like all great free to play games? Is it a massively grindy achievement list?
Yes. Well, yes and no. There's really only, well, when I say really, there's two grindy achievements. One I've literally just got, which is 500,000 damage, and then the other one, and considering I'm only at 16% of this other achievement, and I have every other achievement in the game, it's 147 wins within the game. And as you can imagine, when you're playing with friends who are drinking, winning isn't always what's going to happen.
Probably not the priority.
No. Well, I've played it not drunk as well with my brother Jimsy, and I'm currently at 16%, and my closest friend is at 8% of the achievement process.
How long do games go for?
It depends on there's a couple of different modes. So it depends, and also depends on how dominant you are as a team. So
Right.
they've got the traditional sort of domination mode, capture the flag. They've also got a bit like Halo SWAT and things like that. So, I mean, on average, I'd say about 10 minutes.
Okay.
But if you really do steamroller a team, you probably can do it in about 5. But obviously, you've really got a bit. The beginning of Fridays, we do all right. We ironically, this Friday we played it from probably about 9 o'clock till about 1 o'clock, and we only lost one game, and I went up 1% of the achievement.
Will you complete it?
As long as my friends keep wanting to play it, then yes. And
Right.
we do tend to sort of play multiplayer games quite a lot on a Friday. We've done stuff like Overcooked 2. We've done stuff currently. We played Surgeon Simulator 2 that's just come out on Game Pass, and that is terrible online, but it's funny with friends.
I heard it's
We'd
just
like
terrible.
literally, obviously, with surgeons, you have to operate on and dismember Bob, who's the main character in the game, who comes up out the floor, and you look at a screen, and it tells you, oh, you've got to amputate his right arm and then give him another arm, and my friend Two Names will accidentally chop his head off,
Oh,
which is nice. And you
head
have to keep his
transplant.
blood levels up. I'm presuming you might play it because seeing it's a simulation game.
Avoiding it very strongly at the moment.
There's two versions of it.
I
Happy
know.
days.
You're tempting him, I can tell. Yeah, it's
Come and do the
so funny
multiplayer with
you.
me.
It's so funny you reference the drinking because I'm just imagining there that it does enhance play for some people to a degree before the massive drop off that occurs, and it'd be wonderful to see that as a graph, wouldn't it, on the wins, just as you slowly become more inebriated as you just slowly drift off to
Yeah. Obviously,
the
I
the
do
lost one.
not think drinking is great. I just think it's fun.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's so we won't go down this line, but I do a because I'm an older gentleman now, so I have to be a little bit careful in case I kill myself quickly in this country with alcohol. But so I do an alternate month thing. So coming into the dry month now for October, so we can drink again in November. But I actually find that I score more trophies and achievements in the drinking months than I do in the dry months. So I don't know what that says, but maybe Microsoft should put some money into that,
Yeah.
perhaps.
See, I do it the other way around. I do dry every other day, and Fridays I have a couple of drinks. And to be honest with you, I'm talking as in like I'm sort of very drunk. I'm not. I have a couple of drinks. My friends um do enjoy a tipple, especially when we get together, and then that's when it gets out of hand. But normally at home on a Friday night, I might have 1 or 2 beers and a couple of rums.
That's fair
Nothing
enough.
wrong with that.
No, nothing at all. But look, when you're number one gamer score holder in Australia, soon to be the number one in the Oceanic, if something
No.
happens over there, you don't have time for drinking. So what have you been playing? What have you been playing this week, sir?
Lots, as usual, but I'll just talk about a couple. I'll start with the affectionately known Tabs, the totally accurate battle simulator, which is not accurate in any way. How can you describe this game? It takes fictional and non-fictional units from history and gods, and you can spawn them onto a battlefield and basically go head to head with another army and see, could Zeus beat 10 raptors? Could Roman chariots beat Da Vinci's tank? You know, that one, that's the round one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just chaos, and it's meant to be chaos. That's the whole point of the game. It's free on Game Pass, so technically not free, but still, it's actually a lot of fun. I ripped on it a little bit, but it is a lot of fun because it's just so silly, and the physics is very loose, so stuff just goes flying, and units are, you can balloon woolly mammoths. So any game that you can tie balloons to a woolly mammoth and send it in the air is just crazy. And that's not even the craziest stuff. That's just the craziest one I can think of. It's a pretty easy list. I think 6 to 8 is the rough estimate. It's got a lengthy campaign, and you can cheese the whole way. Basically, with the debug tools, you can pick all the enemy units up and throw them off the map, so you don't have any risk, because you have to do every campaign flawless. And even with all the units unlocked, that is still tough to do properly. So yeah, I'd look into that. I don't know if there's any videos on how to use the debug menu properly, but most of all the other random achievements have video guides already, so that's pretty good. The achievement list is pretty new. I think I only got achievements this week or something, sometime around there. But a lot of fun. I kind of recommend it because it's just so silly, and it has multiplayer. So Paddy, if you ever want to have a drinking night with your friends and want to have a laugh, I'd play that because it's just so silly.
Is it like real time strategy or in its space or?
It kind of is, but yeah. Think of like the arenas are like a soccer field. So your team starts on one half, enemy team on the other half. You can set your units to spawn wherever on your half you want. So sometimes there's buildings, sometimes there's water. Sometimes there's like the maps are a bit random, so you can do a little bit of strategy there, and you can just let the units go and just watch it if you want, or you can take control of one of your units and try and win first person style. You have your melee characters, you have your your range characters, which can range from archers to musketeers to Zeus, who can throw lightning and all sorts of randomness. So it's up to you. You can do it. So it kind of is. If you're going to play it properly, it'd probably be real time. It'd be real time strategy game. That's how it should be classed, I think, because you can, just watch everything go, and you're trying to develop the way to win. Because obviously, it's got the whole rock paper scissors method where this is strong against this, but this beats this. So without guides, playing it legitimately would be a little bit of a slog to figure out. But like I said, it has that wonderful debug menu, and you can able to spawn in any unit you want. So I had a lot of fun, one level where there was, pikemen who basically just had giant sticks, and I spawned in, a tank and blew them completely off the map, and they had no chance. You can just do silly stuff like that, and it's a lot of fun. I will be able to complete it, but those campaigns are a slog because each campaign is maybe 20 maps, and each fight has varies maybe from 5 units to say 30 units to defeat. So when you have to pick up every unit and throw them off the map, it doesn't sound like much, but it is a slog. And when you have to do it, because you have to do it, if you want all the achievements, you have to do each campaign flawlessly. So that isn't fun. That part's not fun. But playing the game legitimately, I can see there is fun there, but that will not get you the completion. So that is not what I will be doing.
So someone out there will be licking their lips at the idea of that, though, following videos and everything else, no doubt. But
yeah,
each their own.
That's right. I would like to talk about another game.
Please.
And this time, I'm not going to be anywhere near as nice.
Oh, excellent.
I was so looking forward to this. When I first heard about it, it was going to be my highlight of the year.
Oh, wow.
I'd built myself up so much, and I raced home. Well, I didn't race home. I raced from work to pick it up. I don't pre-order physical games very often, but I did for this. And the game is Super Monkey Ball, the remake.
Oh, wow.
I played it. I couldn't even begin to tell you how many hours I played on GameCube. It was probably Super Monkey Ball 2 is probably in my top 10 favorite games of all time, due to just the challenge, the level of skill you have to be to complete it, and the skill level I got to. It's probably the one game I would say that I am better than everyone I've ever met, real life, online. There's no other game I could say that except for Super Monkey Ball. So obviously I was stoked that I could play it on the Xbox, get achievements. It was a Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 remake, so it had all the levels that I could ever dream of. So eagerly got it, installed it, put it on, and I knew straight away something was wrong. It wasn't right. And it turns out there's a lot wrong. There's not a lot right at all. They've changed so much from the originals that it's barely even the same game. For one thing, and this probably isn't the developer's fault. The Xbox control isn't as suited as the GameCube control for the game. You need a lot of precision. You need a lot of finite movements, and you just don't have the control you need to be able to complete the tougher levels. So that's my first gripe. My second one is they've changed a lot of the levels for no reason. There's just no particular reason. There's just a whole heap of levels that are just different. They've changed the timing, so you don't. Obviously, it was a long, long time ago. I played Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2, but you kind of get a feel for. I know I have to wait. I remember this level. I know I have to wait about 5 seconds, and I can go. And if I go at the right angle, I'll complete it. I'll miss all the things that are moving on the map, and I'll just complete it. Well, everything's out now, so the levels don't feel as fluid as they used to. It's all jumbled up and random, and I don't really like it. That's another gripe. A third one is there's no multiplayer campaign mode anymore, which is what me and my friends used to play all the time. We used to always compete against each other. We could all play at the same time, and effectively it's a race. So you're just racing, and we all were very good, and that is what we loved about Monkey Ball, the skill level you needed, and that's just all gone. What still is there is the party mini games, which are still good. There's a whole heap. I won't go through them all. They're all just random stuff. But they took away one of the things in these mini games that was the best part is like 6 or 7 playable. I don't know how many there are actually. There's 6 or 7 playable characters, and they're all a little bit varied. And because of this, they have their own kind of attributes. So kind of like a Mario Kart style, where their heavier characters can go faster, but they can't turn as well. Things like that. Well, in this, they took that all away. So Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 had this attribute system, but in this game, for some reason, they don't. And I don't really understand why they did that. So that makes like the monkey race and the monkey bowling, you're just using skins now. So there's no strategy to it anymore, if that makes sense, I suppose. Because if you had a heavier character, obviously in a straight line, you can go really fast in the race modes, but you can't turn. So you've got to, it's a risk versus reward compared to, say, the middle characters who are, good at both, but not excelling at either. So, but when they're just skins, everybody's the same. So if your skill level's kind of the same, it's just boring, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Is it bad enough to be thrown in the returns bin, or are you going to hold on to it?
I'm going to hold on to it because I'm hopeful I can kind of fix the controls a little bit by playing around with my sensitivities in the Xbox settings. I'm hoping I can do something to make it a little bit more playable. And I've read an article which says they're listening to people about some sort of campaign multiplayer, but I don't think they're going to be able to implement it after the fact. I think it's just too hard. But I'm going to hold on to it because I've started it, so I'll try and get as many points out of it as I can. But I don't know how many more I can do. And do you want to know the most stupidest part of it? I think, out of take all this away, they've changed the soundtrack and the voices for the game, which in a way makes sense because it's it's a remake, so get new voice talent in, or the old voice talent wasn't available. Fair enough. But as a microtransaction, you can buy the original soundtrack and voices.
Yeah.
So you've bought the game, and if you want the original voices, you can pony up a little bit more money, which I think is ridiculous.
It's all about the
I
money.
think that's a joke.
Yeah.
I know it's just a little thing because who really cares? Like, only really fans of the series are going to really care. But isn't that kind of what you're making the game for?
Yeah. That's where the creep starts, though. It's little things like that, and then it's a costume, and then it's all these characters cost money on top of the game. Then this.
No, there are viable characters as well, like Hello Kitty for some reason, and there's a few others. I don't know. There's a couple of nice little touches, like Sonic and Tails are in the game because it's a Sega game, so Sonic and Tails are there, strong Sega characters, and they change because it's your monkeys. You connect collecting bananas on the map, and they changed the bananas to like the sonic rings and stuff, which is a nice little touch. And you have the sound effects, but it's I'm so disappointed. I really, really am, and I was so excited. I don't know. I'm sure everyone's had a feeling like that before, but it's never really. I don't really get excited for a game like anything like I did to this level, and I was hoping I could play it with my children, who we play a little bit of Fortnite and Apex with every now and then, and I was hoping they could get a taste of what my not quite childhood was. I think I was 18 or something when I was playing it, but we could play like all together, and then you could see how fun it could be, and that's all got taken away, and it's just I don't know. I feel like they've just they I feel like they've toned the difficulty down for people as well, because in the original games you had to be you had to complete all the expert levels in 3 lives to unlock the master levels. Well, in this game, if you can, there's no lives, so you can just bang your head against the wall, and eventually you'll complete the level, no matter how hard it is. Eventually you will, because you can continue from the level you get up to. Like I said, no lives, and even it even offers you, after you fail a level 3 times in a row, or maybe 4, you can just skip it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feature.
It just comes up on the screen. Would you like to skip?
Yeah. Which
I'm never ever going to do, because I think that just takes away from Monkey Ball completely. If you need to be skipping levels, you're not going to be able to complete levels further on. So I don't really understand. I just think, I don't know, maybe, well, we know that they're making games a little bit easier for this generation. That's been proven time and time again, and I just don't think Monkey Ball is the game for that. I don't think, well, Paddy will probably dive it at some point, but I don't think you will ever play it, so you probably won't. Have you ever played the originals, either of you? Like, any of the originals?
I've played the original.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't got as fond memories that you have of it. I thought it was just a ball running around on a coloured floor. But
yes,
can I ask you something? Do you think
Sure.
they've dumbed down the game because they know they haven't managed to get the controls precision down?
I think see it. That's a tough one to answer, because the fact that they haven't got the controls down makes the game harder, if anything. So in a way, maybe they've offered this skip system in order to appease people. But if you can't keep your character on a thin wire on the 10th level of expert, you're not going to be able to keep it on a thinner wire on the 30th level of expert. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, why? If you're gonna, it's a slippery slope. If you're gonna skip a level, you might as well just skip every level, and then you might as well not even play the game, in my opinion.
It's a
Then
very
what's the
slippery
point?
slope on this podcast.
Yeah,
Like-
does that lead then into can you skip it to get achievements?
Well,
There it is.
like I said, I haven't skipped the level yet, and I doubt I will. But there's this whole mission system, and there's like 700 tasks you've got to do, and some of that adds a bit more variety to the game. So I'll praise them for that. That's pretty cool. Sometimes you have to complete levels a little bit of a different way than you normally would, so that adds a bit more variety. But if you skip levels, you're not going to get like the world completion mission. So it's going to make, basically, if you skip, if you can't do a level, you're not going to ever get the completion. Like, if you're going to keep skipping, say, one level and you just never complete it, you're never getting the completion.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, some enough. So, like, it is just like a roll a ball into a goal. Basically,
Yeah.
That's the game, and the levels just get progressively harder and more challenging, and weirder stuff happens. And so normally, you take the most direct route to the goal if you can, or whatever's the easiest way to get there. But some of these missions, have to go and collect like 20 bananas on the way. So you have to go kind of off the path, and you've always got a time limit bearing down on you, which adds to the stress. And yeah, so that, like I said, those kind of missions that allow you to do that are pretty cool. Like, because it changes it up. But you can just do that in like a practice mode. So it's not like you have to like play 20 levels to get to that one level, and then, I've got one shot at getting 20 bananas. There's no like no chat. I say there's no challenge, but it is a challenging game even so because of the controls are just so shit. You used to be able to keep your ball kind of still. Like even on a level that's kind of moving, you could always keep control of your ball in one spot, like on a, you could kind of spin on the spot to keep where you need to go. But now it's so hard to just stop moving. And I've got a brand new control, so it's not like I have, stick drift or anything like that. Literally, I got that new Acro Shift control. I've had it for about 2 weeks, so my control is fine. I think I've got to adjust the sensitivities, and maybe I'll like it a little bit more. I've still almost completed story mode. I think I've got like one world to go, so I've almost done like the hardest things the game has, but still, it's so upsetting. I've never been this upset over a game.
It's broken your memories.
Well, no, because I still have my GameCube and I still have Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2. I could literally, the controls are a bit shit now, but I could literally turn it on and play it properly and would fall like back in love with it. But achievement hunting doesn't always allow that. And I was hoping this would allow it to combine my love of achievement hunting with, one of my favorite gaming franchises. And I think what they've done, I've probably talked about this for too long already, but in the more modern Monkey Balls, they added jumping, like the ability just to literally press the A button and you could jump. So they designed levels around that for the newer games. The old games didn't have it, so the levels aren't designed for it. But you can literally buy in the in-game shop, not for real money, in the in-game shop, the ability to jump. So that also takes a lot of the skill out of it. Because some levels, if you wanted to like take like a ridiculous shortcut and finish the level in 5 seconds, where rather than pushing the limit, you have to try and figure out a way to get airborne yourself off like ramps is obviously the easiest way, but hitting the wall at a certain speed at a certain angle would send you up, and then you got to control your. But now you can literally just jump. So you look at the world record has a leaderboards, and it's just people jumping like the whole way, and jumping was never meant for this game, and it sucks that they brought it in for people, that it just shouldn't be there. It just shouldn't be there.
It's a passionate defense of your opinion. I think that's fair. So because you definitely didn't throw it under the bus, all your reasons are clearly valid. I think, yeah. And it's so funny when you built that game up, and because I'm at the moment, like this happens every now and then, but I'm in a life or death struggle with both of the stores to acquire every game that seems to release every day at the moment. And when you were talking about that, I'm like, shit, there's one I've missed. This is excellent. I'm looking so forward to it. Soon as the word super left your mouth, my eyes glazed over, and I was like, fuck it, I'm not interested. But it was fascinating to hear, because I don't play these old style games. They're too difficult anyway, and then you're saying controllers and stuff. But it is interesting, having not played that myself, to hear that though. So
yeah, there's not many games where I've just turned it off while I've been playing, but I've literally turned the console off while playing that.
I can send you a list. I'll send you a list.
It's not because I can't do it, or it's because the game is just not what I hoped.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah. It's so funny. The only thing I'll throw out there, only because you brought up about this adding, paying extra for the soundtrack and stuff. I've been smashed through Judgment the other week, and one of the awesome things about playing on two consoles now and being more even is that I'm hoping I'll get a bit out of step with what's being released, because only playing on the one, I've kept up pretty much. So I play most things as they come out. So it's very rare that I get to a game and I can literally play the sequel as soon as I finish the main game, if I'm interested in it. So that's been awesome with this Lost Judgment as well there by Sega. But it's funny you mention that, because they sell the game as a full price game. They sell the season pass, which is fine. And they have this in-between squeeze for $15, which is this pack that all it says it does is it enhances the story and side story. So I don't exactly know how that is, but it's a bizarre inclusion. Just to that point that you said, it's not included in the game. And I mean, if someone's going to play these games, you probably want the game enhanced. Why would you not? If you spent all this money on it, Series X or PS5, you're going to buy the cheap, shitty version, are you? So it's just a bizarre situation. They sell you the game, then they squeeze you for another 15 if you want the full enhanced experience, I suppose.
And you don't even know what it is.
Well, look, it's not just cosmetics. That's because I thought, oh, you don't need it. It's just hats. You know, I don't need any more
Yeah.
hats. But it's no, it is like in the mini games within the game and thing. But I think maybe like I'm not sure how this works on the Xbox, but Sony's pretty tight on this. I have a feeling that what the content is mustn't actually have any trophies or achievements related to it, because selling it like that, I know, always creates a bit of hot water over on the PlayStation side. But perhaps it makes it easier in a way, you know, in that there's more options for mini games or easier to earn currency. I'm not sure, or more options maybe, but it does further it or something. So anyway, we'll find out in like 30 hours or 40 hours that the game will probably take or whatever. But the only thing I wanted to ask you maybe, and I suppose more for Meph before we get into this beandive thing, is having done that comp, having seen this dude, he punches out 200k in a day or whatever. Having seen Neo Master that hasn't played a lot of this garbage, and then in a month hits 100 and something k, playing it all at once, and it's been on the back of my mind for quite some time. I know it's not the way you play. Have you given any consideration to just playing as you like, letting this stuff build up, and then having 1 week every 2 months or whatever the time frame be, where you just smash it out? Like they're sort of going to do. I think that's their plan.
Yeah, I've thought about it before. Neo Master's our fault, CJ,
Well,
that he did
yes.
that.
Mm. I still think we can catch the bastard though.
Well, I think he's like 100k clear of me now. So
Look, he's more than a
it's
million on
crazy.
me. So
Crazy. Yeah, I've thought about it, but I see this only level of smashing has only been happening for just nearly 2 years. Before I started doing before number 1 was in sight, I didn't really game all that much. I had like we had a couple of good comp years, which still pale compared to these last 2, and I had like 18 months where I barely scored anything.
Mhm.
I did about, I don't know what year it was, but I only did like 30,000 1 year, a couple of years ago, and then with Estru getting banned, I kind of made a decision there to I was going to take first place. I was next active in line. Rogue obviously wanted it too, and there wasn't really too many others that were that close. Jeremy was close, but not as close as he is now. So yeah, I decided I can't let Rogue have number 1 at that point anyway, and smashed it. And I haven't really looked back. I kind of got into a bit of a habit now. It's kind of it's kind of just put on an easy 1,000 every day and then play something else until I go to bed. I kind of obviously you have dinner in there and do other bits and pieces, but that's kind of my day every day.
Mm.
I kind of like scoring points. I kind of like the endorphins of the pops on the screen all the time, and so I probably couldn't do it the way Neo Master has in the last month, and the way I couldn't do the level that last guy did, but he did 200k in 1 day and save for a whole year or however long you say. That's crazy. The level of planning in that, I couldn't do that. Not quite like to that level, because he didn't really score for the, obviously a little bit, but didn't score for the year leading up to it, and then just he planned for that whole day, and then just bang, unleashed it.
Yeah,
Our comp.
I'm not convinced. The only interest it holds for me, that strategy, is that it maybe saves you time. That's the only thing that interests me, but I don't think necessarily it would. I've been thinking a lot about it, and definitely for him, the amount of time you're putting in, but even hitting them 1 month like Neo did recently, I'm not convinced that you are necessarily saving time with that approach. I think perhaps playing them as they come, perhaps when the information is fresh and around. It depends. If you're playing maybe totally on your own island and you're not getting tips from anyone, perhaps it doesn't matter. But if you're within the community a bit, and I think perhaps it doesn't save you any time at all waiting.
That'd kind of suit you, CJ, because obviously you play on the 2 systems, and you could do every fortnight you could have a blast on each one and try and keep your positions and move up in the Xbox side.
Yeah, well, I've
That
been
kind of
trying
suits
it.
that.
It seems to work okay. But look, let's shift across here because Paddy is patiently waiting. And look, this is what
Yes.
I really want to get into. So, Paddy, before I did this, I used to host this dreadful PlayStation show thing, and we talked to a lot of these degenerate trophy hunters, and some of them like really extreme. So I've heard some pretty crazy shit. Whether it be some guy spending like 1,500 in Crypt of the Necrodancer to get this one run that's like godlike run through, or whether it was Hakum, one of the top ranked trophy hunters, creating 200 accounts on his PS4 to self boost a boxing game that is long and gone dead because there's no other way to find unique players. I've heard all sorts of crazy shit, but I have not heard anything to the extent of what you've been doing. So I want to know, how did it start?
Originally, it was on a podcast. There was an Xbox podcast called the Achievement Hounds, and they randomly one day decided they had their own forums, they had their own website, and they announced they were gonna do this bean dive. So if anybody doesn't know what a bean dive is, you basically play a game that you haven't played on your tag or your station, whatever you class, trophies, whatever it is, and you get one achievement. You can get more in it, but as long as you get it to pop on your profile as that you've got an achievement in it, it's classed as a dive. So TA actually do, I think it's a 2 week thing or a week thing on where you dive as much as you want to, and then you've got a recovery button. So then the aim is to try and recover all of your percentage droppage or game values back up. So they invented this competition. There was quite a few people. It's been that many years, I can't remember how many people started it, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll do this potentially endless bean dive," and they
They
thought,
weren't
"Oh,
wrong.
it will last a month." So I basically wanted to beat my brother. He did it for a year. I then decided, well, he won something because there were prizes to be won, and this is, you probably don't even know about Xbox points. So before you had currency, you had points, and the prize for first place was 800 Microsoft points, which is, I think, equivalent to about £10 here in the UK,
Yep.
which basically is not even a game. Or you might get two shitty games, or one ACA game, or two Rakalaka games, or something on those lines. And so, yeah, you dive a game a day and see how long you can play for. And I've been doing it for many, many years now.
Tell them how long. Tell the people.
8 years and 220, what was it, 24 days.
So that's 8 years, nearly 9 years, we'll say, just for simplicity, of every day a brand new game, fresh on your tag, at least one achievement. Yeah.
Yeah, I've played 300 and well, no, not 300, 3,146 games since the competition started, and I haven't played today's game yet. So at the end of today, it will be 3,147.
So in context, that because I know there are PlayStation people that will listen, so you have to get your mind around the fact that with Xbox, most games don't have stacks. If they do, they only have one, with rare exceptions. So it's a very different situation to us that's getting 6 to 8 stacks of the same game. So by and large, out of that 3,000 odd games, at least half, or more than half, are unique games as well, aren't they? It's not like you can just for 4 days play the same game, a different stack or different version.
That is correct. There are a couple of games that have got more than one version of said game. So like Bioshock that's got a couple. Bioshock 2's got a
Minecraft.
couple. Minecraft's got loads, but I save them for competitions. So yeah, there are a couple, but like you said, with PlayStation, there is a lot more. But that just means a
Oh,
lot
way more.
more money.
Yeah, isn't it? A lot more money.
A lot more money.
Yeah.
So
Real gamers know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, just
Yeah.
play the same game forever on that system. Trust me. But so that means this is what interests me because like I love to buy games. Sometimes I play them, but my greatest joy in gaming is perusing the store. If I could earn Gamerscore or platinums for time spent in the store, I'd be the world number one by now for sure. But actually playing them, it doesn't always happen. But you're acquiring a new game every day, I suppose, to play in one way or another. So how does that planning go into effect? And are you buying like games in bulk a month in advance so you're set, or how does that all come about?
So I went through a phase where I would, because a lot when it started, obviously it was 360. I went through a phase where I would go to car boots, I would go to local game stores and basically go through their bargain bins, um, and check out which games. Because again, I'd use TA, go, oh, I've played that one, don't need that. I've got that one because I had a spreadsheet with all the games that I owned that I haven't dived. So, and that was all alphabetical. It still is. So I can go into a shop, go, oh, that's 50p or a pound. Do I own it? Yeah, I own it. Put it back in. So when probably 4 years ago, I went through a phase and bought. So I own every single Connect game, the majority of 360 PAL stuff. I used to collect a lot of the Japanese and American stacks, and I wish I'd done it when I was doing it and bought all of them. But now, due to 360 not being as well, not the ecosystem isn't there. It's now Xbox One, Xbox X. They're getting stupidly priced, so I'm not really actively looking for more foreign titles that are 100 and 120 pounds priced when I could have got them for 20 or 30. The appreciation for the stacks and the foreign titles have gone up. I own quite a lot of them, but I don't own everything. I have had friends offer me games, so they will ship me them to my house. I've been to people's houses and dive games that are delisted on the 360 store. I had a friend send me an Xbox through the post that had got delisted games on. So if there's anybody out there that looks at my tag and has got delisted 360 games that you see I have not played, message me because I will happily take your Xbox off you to play it. Happily. And if you want money, happily send you money.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I'm literally sitting on probably about 550 titles at this moment, and so I could not buy a game for a year and still have enough games to play. But so I've got to the point where I don't buy anything brand new unless I'm actually going to play it with my friends or I actually really want to play it. A lot of it's through sales. I sometimes get free codes off developers that have kindly gave me them, and obviously play them.
Did you tell
And
them
now,
you'll only be reviewing to the first achievement?
to be honest, most of the time when they give me a free code, I tend to play the whole game because I respect the fact they've offered me a free game. But I don't. The thing I find about reviews are they're all the same,
Yeah.
and the people that get review copies are all the same. And this is got absolutely nothing against people that get codes. They work, and I understand that they're hard at work. But in the end of the day, I know of 5 or 10 reviewers, and the people that look at their reviews are all the exact same people off TA who then go and get the games. So to be honest with you, the pool that the developers are giving their review codes out to aren't really getting their game out there, because as soon as one person on TA plays it and it's easy, everybody on TA are going to play it, and the people they're giving the review codes to, it doesn't matter, because as soon as one person on TA knows it's easy, everybody knows, well, pretty much. So it's kind of like a
Sells
circle of,
itself.
and it's hard for people that actually want to, like, there's your Australian Dane's a game. I've seen his reviews, and he's now doing stuff with Bills, who's is an amazing guide maker in America. Fair play to both of them. I respect them. But Dane, I now feel, or I don't want to bash, is now sort of lowered what I used to like about his guides, because he's now making achievement guides to get more games.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went off on a tangent there, but
No,
you're right.
it's no, like I dropped the word hustle in the intro because you're right. That's what it is, whether it be podcasts, whether it be, people reviewing or whatever else. It's just this massive hustle, that it's, as you say, it's just, self-fulfilling. It just keeps going round and round. And a lot of these people, like there are some really good people doing it, as you say, but there's a lot of people trapped in this cycle that they were interesting and they've just become boring because they're just pushing this agenda and to keep the wheel going, to keep the codes or to keep the Patreon money or to keep whatever coming in. And I think you're right. I think they don't realize that perhaps their content in some ways is irrelevant because it's just what everybody else is saying. And as you say, they sell themselves anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Again, I don't want to badmouth people because their
No,
work is
of course.
amazing. That foremost, I think all the guide makers need a round of applause. They take their time out to help the rest of
That's
us
true.
get the guides, and most of them who are getting codes are making guides.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I think
It's
guides are separate again. That's right. Yeah.
but you find most of the people that actually get review codes are then making guides. The majority of them. There's a few out there that aren't making. I mean, I've never made a guide off a review code, so I can class myself as one of them. I've just got it and then told friends. I used to write a couple of blogs regarding reviews, but I haven't really had many review codes. I've probably had 10 in the time that I've actually been gaming, and that's just through someone telling me, "Oh, you can get this game through this avenue on Twitter." Email them, well, DM them, and they might be able to sort you out with a game. And I just tell them who I am. I've never, like, I knew someone that was sending emails out and just completely sugarcoating an email saying that they were going to review it. And back then, this was when Xbox first, the X1X was first come out, and they were just basically sugarcoating it and never making a guide.
Yeah.
No, that's wrong. But
yeah, that's probably wrong.
Yeah.
I was always like, I'm going to play your game and I might finish it, but I might only play it for 10 minutes if the first achievement's in 10 minutes. I've always been honest with, that's the one thing, is treat others the way you want to be treated is the way I've reflect on life.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, all three of us are in similar positions that I think we're clever enough and old enough to realize that, he who pays calls the shots. And often it's just easier to buy the game than deal with the requirements of taking things off others or whatever else. So I think it's a dicey line to go down, but I think we're all on a similar page. Look, I've got to ask, because I know Mem has some questions here as well, but this interests me as well. Like, you've got 24 hours in a day. Surely there's been some days where it's come down to the wire. How close has it ever come to the wire in missing a day?
I mean, it's really good for me. I haven't mentioned it. The actual podcast was American, so the time frame that you have to dive through for me is 7 a.m. in the morning to obviously the following 7 a.m. So I've got pretty much the majority of the time I'm awake to like, as a major chunk. So at the weekends I try and do it straight away. Through the week I come home from work, spend time with family, and then do the dive. The closest I've ever been to finishing the dive was 7 hours before my dive time had finished, and that was when my daughter was born. And if it wasn't for the fact that I wasn't allowed to stay in the hospital with my wife and my new daughter, I would be out of the competition now, because I'd turn around to my wife and said, I'm not going to dive. I'm here for you. I'm here for my little girl. At that time, I didn't know she was a little girl because we decided we didn't want to know the sex. But I said, no, I'm going to be here for our family. I'm not going to dive a game. And they kicked me out an hour after my little girl was born, and I got into the car and was like, what do I do? Shit, I'm a dad. And I pulled out my Windows phone and dived a game.
As you do, as dads do.
That's a
I was
great
like, I need to-
advertisement from Microsoft. Where are they? They need to hear that story.
Crazy. Now, I do have a few questions. Now, obviously, I've known you for a long time, Paddy, so some of these questions you're going to be like, why are you asking me this? You already know this kind of stuff. But I want to give everyone a feel because, as CJ said, it's pretty crazy. A new game every day for nearly 9 years is insane. It's more insane than the highest scoring people do. I can't, like CJ said, I can't think of much else, that would top, 9 years. But you've said it's a contest, or it started out as a contest, so that obviously means there's other participants now. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there has been 3 of us for many, many years. So I think it was about into like 2.5 years that the last person dropped out. Well, it was 2.5 years into the competition when the last person dropped out. He's again, and most of these people that were in the competition that sort of like got past the first couple of weeks are people that are on TA and quite high up on leaderboards, etc., etc. And he left 2.5 years into it, and there was 3 of us for a very, very long time. And it pains me to say, both of them are Australian.
Oh, wow.
So I've literally been the only Brit in this. I don't even it's not a competition anymore because the podcast is redundant. It's not been around for probably 8 years of the competition. There are people loosely based that know ins and outs of the competition that have known it, but it's not a competition anymore. It's a way of life, which is really
As all
weird to
gaming
say.
should be.
Yeah.
All
So I
degenerate
don't.
gaming should be.
Yeah, I wouldn't if for some reason someone the last, because there's now only 2 of us technically, even though the crazy man that is Sea Monkey decided to carry on doing it after he accidentally dived what he thought was a new game, but it was ironically a stack that he was going to play, and it wasn't the stack version he dived.
Oh,
It was
gosh.
the actual version he'd already played, so he got another achievement in the game that he'd already played and thought he'd played the new one, got the achievement, and obviously didn't check to make sure, because I tend to check on TA to make sure the game's sunk on my profile, and it says that I've started a new game, just because it's now, ever since that happened, even though it only happened last year, it's paranoia, just to make sure the game's new. But there's a Discord group that we're all in, and a fellow podcaster, he doesn't do a podcast anymore, but ZZ Urban Spaceman has made a bot for us. So it basically scrapes TA and tells us when when the day's ended and when we've dived something. So I don't even have to check TA anymore. I can just look at that, and we chat between ourselves every now and again in there. So there's me, Sea Monkey, who's technically not in it, but as soon as he messed up, he carried on doing it for some crazy reason. I probably wouldn't play the Xbox for a month. And another gentleman called Montana.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's just crazy that. Do you think? Well, is the prize still up for grabs? Because you said that the podcast is no more, the website's no more, or whatever, the hosts are gone, or whatever's happened there. But is there still somewhere an 800-point Microsoft card sitting somewhere for the winner?
There was someone who'd mentioned that there would be someone that would give us something, but in the end, I'm not after the. I'm not after. I've spent that money. I spent that money
Who
in the
cares?
first. Yeah, I don't care. It. If I'm honest, I probably would if for some reason I went out, and it's definitely something that could easily happen. I could have a power cut. I could lose my internet. I could be out with work, and I've only got my phone, and I can't connect the cloud. There is definitely reasons why one of us could drop out for just stupidness, rather than I don't. We've been doing it that long that I don't think someone's just gonna sort of drop out because they just went, I can't be bothered to do it anymore.
Clearly,
Yeah.
Go for 9 years. That's
Yes.
not going to be what comes
So
unstuck for someone.
I haven't said it verbally to Montana, but I would turn around to him and say, I will buy you a game. Any
There you
game.
go.
And I want it a game that you are going to play. And I don't mean like literally,
Dive.
and I don't want
It's
one of
one
these
achievement.
0 to 1 hours. I would happily send him. I'll probably get you to go out and get it for me because obviously you live in Australia, and then I don't have
That's
to.
right.
The shipping would be
Deal
cheaper
with
and
it.
stuff. But
Yeah.
I would get a physical game put in his hand if
Yeah.
he was the last man standing.
That's very honourable, sir.
Mm.
Okay, a few more. How do you decide what you're gonna dive? Like, obviously, you've said you've done 3,000 odd games, so they're obviously all out. But of what's remaining, how do you decide each day what you're gonna do?
I don't.
You
I don't.
decide?
I don't just. Well, yeah. It sounds silly. I don't have a spreadsheet of I'm going to play this game. This game's tomorrow. This game's. I know what games I've bought. They're all individually linked, especially on the Xbox One. They're all in their own pins. So when I dive it, they get removed out of the to dive section on my actual list. If I come across a game that is quick, it then goes into a quick dive list. So if for some reason I'm away for the weekend and I just want to quickly dive a game and then get back on with family duties, being out with friends and etc., I've got a game that's press start at the beginning or
Yeah.
kill an enemy. So I don't have like this is what I'm going to play. I've got a various amounts of games that are there that I can play. All my games, other than my hard copied games, which I don't really buy anymore, just because it's easier for me. It's not that I don't like discs, and I just have them digitally. Just because I've got 3 8 terabyte hard drives full, pretty much, of games on my Xbox. So I've got the pool to just pull off. It's just my 360 games that I've got on disc that I can put in. So yeah, I don't.
Do you like, once you dive a game, do you usually just quit game, uninstall game, done? Is that what you normally do?
I don't uninstall any game. All my
Right.
games are installed.
Wow.
Hence why I've got the 3 8 terabyte hard
Yep.
drives. It's a lot harder on the Series X. So I've got a Series X that I actually just play games on there that I like. I've talked about it for the Fridays with my friends. So I've got Splitgate installed. I've got Halo installed. I've got Overcooked installed. I've got some other multiplayer games that are just on that box that I use as my sort of daily Friday night gaming machine. The games that I'm going to sit down and enjoy are on there. Series X games are on there, and that's it. No hard drives plugged into it, and then I've got an older X that has got my 3 terabyte hard drives stuck onto it.
Yep. And you don't uninstall anything.
Don't uninstall anything. No, even games that I know are never ever going to have DLC, like any of these Rakalaka games, they're still installed.
Even after you 1,000 them.
Even if after 1,000 them.
Oh, wow.
Because
Wow.
I like seeing the games that I don't have installed.
I
Because
like seeing games leave my hard drive when they're trash. Bye.
yeah,
Sometimes.
I get that, and I know I'm stupid for not doing it.
No, you're not
But
stupid.
when I
No.
have a list of 100 games that aren't installed, I know I've got 100 games there to play. Whereas if I've got 300 Rakalaka games in there as well, they looks in my mind it's like, ugh, get off me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I keep them installed. I'll just buy another hard drive.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I understand. So, as you said, it's been going 9 years. You've kept the dive going through the birth of your child and countless probably other events in your life. What do, obviously, your wife, your child, and your immediate family think about this whole competition?
There has been a lot more stressful things related to gaming than this competition. That my wife would happily have me dive a game a day than me turn around to her and say, I'm going to do another leapfrog. She's basically told me I cannot do that competition ever again.
I've had similar things be spoken to me as well.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
when we
allowed
did
to
this
do a G task.
Yeah, when we did this 200-week Gamerscore thing, she looked at me, frowned, and went, "You twat."
I got worse. I
Yeah.
can't repeat what was said to me. But so your wife doesn't mind then? Is that because
No.
obviously it costs a lot of money. Like, we don't need to talk about specifics, but games cost money, and you're buying effectively a game a day, every day for 9 years, effectively. So that's, that doesn't, like, nothing, no problems there. Like, she's no issues. Let you go.
I wouldn't say there's no issues regarding the money I spend. There was a point where if I spent money on the Xbox, I would then have to reciprocate the amount of money that I spent on my wife.
Right.
So, for say I spent £100 on Xbox games, she would get £100 worth of shoes and bags. For say, that didn't last very long because then digital happened and the games stopped coming through the post.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
no, I joke about it. I have to obviously manage how much money I spend, which is why
Everyone does.
because of I it's gonna sound really sad. I don't really have a lot of hobbies other than gaming, you know. So I don't really spend that much money on other things. I like listening to music. I go to the cinema with my wife. We go and do family stuff, and I don't want to think that I just sit here in my pants playing Xbox, just waiting for the next game to come out to pop an achievement in it. Don't get me wrong. I do other things. It's just my only other hobby is music. So I play the guitar and the bass. So once I'd paid the money for my guitar, I don't need. I can just sit there and enjoy myself. That and gaming are my two hobbies, which doesn't cost me anything other than some new strings every now and again.
Yeah.
So whereas my wife likes going to the theatre, and lucky enough she goes with my mum, so I don't have to go and sit through it all. Some of the stuff that she watches is good, but I mean, I'm lucky that she supports what I like to do. So there's no sort of like, you shouldn't do that. You should. Obviously, if I was spending hundreds of £100 every week, she'd moan.
Yeah.
I use rental places, so they're ironically they are the only ones that I do and install. If I ever get if I ever get a game that I don't own myself, it gets uninstalled because I also like looking at the number on my ready to play list. It tells me how many games I've got to play.
Yeah.
My
I
mum
can't
and dad,
imagine.
my mum and dad don't really understand Xbox. They just know I play it. They're in their 70s, so they're sort of like, meh, whatever. And my little girl has known no different. She gets more annoyed that I play Gems of War than if I dive. She tells me not to play Gems of War.
I get told this. I have a 6-year-old daughter as well, and I get told the same thing. Why are you playing this? You can't get any achievements in this, Dad.
Yeah.
They know. Like, my children just know. It's just crazy.
I spend more time playing Gems of War than I do any other game.
I feel like, yeah, I do too, and I don't know why. I don't know why.
And I had 6 months off from the game as well, and I still don't know why I've gone back to it.
I got to stop playing it. I've said it so many times, but I got to stop.
It's not going to happen.
I just can't.
It's so funny you mentioned this because I have a good friend that on the PlayStation side, and he actually, it's so funny you mentioned this. And it just comes back a bit to what you're saying, Paddy. Like, you only play like maybe 2 hours a day, and you said, well, some people might think that's a lot. I don't think any high volume player would think that's a lot. That's the sort of people that are listening. So, if anything, that's quite a reasonable amount, I think. But then, like, I don't know. I think, Meph, you're similar. You have a job, you have family as well.
Yep.
A good week for me is 20 hours. Like, that's a good week. And I'm not even though I play a lot of things and earn a lot of trophies, I don't play like big 8-hour sessions or anything like that. That's not possible with my life. So 20 hours is a good week. Obviously, it's inflated with working from home now, whatever. But I got this message from this good friend, and he's recently become more interested in trophies. It's very, very high ranked as well. But he plays this Gems of War as well. And he said to me, he goes, because the PlayStation now tracks this, he said he spent 3,246 hours, which equates to 135.25 days in Gems of War, and then a similar amount in Minecraft, may I say, as well. And I was thinking about it, like, I don't have any game that I've sunk that much time into, and Paddy, you clearly don't either. The way you're, well, I don't know. Have you sunk that much time into Gems of War?
I'm actually just looking. I've played Gems of War for
Oh, okay,
2,376
so you do.
hours and 49 minutes. But the only problem with those statistics is, like, since we've been recording this podcast, before we were recording, I was playing Gems of War.
That's right. So passive
Because I was
time,
doing my dailies, because over again here, they turn over, I think it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. It was 7 o'clock because we started. And it's been sat on Gems of War since I've been talking to you guys. So for the last hour, it's just been idle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. The reason I bring it up is like, and I don't know if maybe you don't cop this, because this feels like where Meph was trying to go. He's trying to find the angle he can use on his wife so he can buy more games. That's why I
No.
was pushing you. But the money side, like, I don't engage with people anymore, because that's the most asked question from people that want to start. They're like, oh, how can you buy all these games, blah, blah, blah. So you just ignore that question. But the other one that always comes up is the time factor. It's like, you must just play all the fucking time, or whatever else. And I'm like, no, like, I only play this much. And the funny thing is, these players, like, and I know you said you've got 2,000 hours in there, but everyone at this sort of level is gaming lots. It's just that I suppose some of us are putting it in different directions or whatever else. And to me, having spoken to you now, this beandive, well, maybe you're selling yourself short a bit, but it doesn't sound like it's sucking up that much of your time then at all.
no, there's a couple of games which take more time to dive, which I tend to try and do at the weekend, so I can then go. I'm a bit like Meth. I will try and do my dive first, because then I know it's finished and out of the way. I then do my dailies and Gems of War, and then I go, what do I actually want to play? So
Similar.
with the weekend stuff, it's like, oh, is there a game that's going to take an hour? Especially with a lot of this the Xbox One stuff. It only most of the games take 10 minutes, if that, to dive. Most of them. I'm still working on a volleyball game, a Dead or Alive volleyball game on the 360 that I've probably been working on for about 4 years to get an achievement in, because you have to get all of the clothes for one of the characters, and it's horrible. And I've probably sunk about 18, 19 hours into that game. And every time I look at it to go play it again, I haven't actually played any for probably a good 2 years. So hopefully my save's still there. I just can't bring myself to doing it. And I sort of weigh how long it's going to be, how long it's going to get an achievement to. It's not a lot anymore. I think
Yeah.
360 days, it used to be a lot longer. I could spend an hour and a half trying to get an achievement in a 360 game, whereas now
Yeah.
it's 10, 15 minutes most of the time.
Yeah.
That leads me into probably my final question I had, actually. I was going to say, are there any games that you are just never going to dive, or wish you could, but you just don't have the time? Because I always think, and I think I've given you shit about it for years, Blazing Angels is the one because that's about 15 hours before you pop the first achievement. Is there games, you mentioned the Dead or Alive, is there any others you can think of that are just too long to dive and you'll just never do? Or
Well, you just mentioned one of them, Blazing Angels. I've got it. I've got it sat here. I can actually see it out of the corner of my eye. Because I'm sad I've got all my 360 games in front of me in alphabetical order.
it's not.
But oh, that and the volleyball game, and obviously games that I can't physically get anymore.
Yeah.
There's games out there that I possibly could message someone on TA and say, do you still have access to this game? Can you please lend me your 360 with it installed, or just send me a hard drive where it's installed, or a memory stick with your profile that I can just stick it on and it's installed, so I don't need to log into your profile, so I can play it, please. But I'm not that kind of guy. If one of my friends say, "Oh, I'm local, come and play the game on my hard drive," I'll do it. But there's nothing out there that I'm chasing, because there's that many games that come out now that I
That's right.
don't need to
Mhm.
chase games. If I'd have started when I first started playing the 360 and actually diving games, then I may be a bit more inclined, because I know someone that basically went on eBay and asked every single person that was selling an Xbox, what games do you have installed on your hard drive?
Wow.
Just to see if there was any games that were available to him for that. I ain't got the
Yeah.
time for that.
No.
There's some weeks there's 30 games coming out or 20 games coming out. So the answer to your question is, I don't have any games that I'm chasing after. If they happen to fall into my lap somehow, when I first started doing, again, I've mentioned my friends, and we go to each other's houses, sort of, or we did before COVID. The reason England's opened up a little bit more, so we can actually go to each other's houses now. But the first time I met one of them and we went to their house, he just went, "I know what you do. Go through my hard drive, see if there's anything that you haven't played." So I spent an hour going through his download history.
Yeah.
And dived X-Men that I hadn't got, that had been delisted.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, will you ever dive Blazing Angels?
For you, yes. Just for you.
Yeah. It's backwards compat, by the way.
Oh, is it? That
So,
makes it even better. I'll get that
yes,
installed.
that's right.
Okay. Yeah, that makes it a little, because it's even though I've got my 360s next to me, I have to take the power plug and put them into each one. I haven't got, because I recently moved up into my loft, I haven't got them all set up properly, which infuriates me. But I just turn them on every now and again to make sure the dashboard's up to date and my profile's still on there, because obviously you have to then put your if you're, I don't know if it's on the actual 360, because I'll just do it anyway because I'm an idiot. But if you don't sign into your profile for X amount of time, it forgets your password and you have to put it in. And I'm an idiot for passwords.
Right. Fair enough.
So I just boot them up every now and again, make sure they are okay, they're still running, they don't sound like a truck, and then probably dive one game and then go back to my Xbox One because it's so much easier and nicer to use.
Fair enough. Well played.
Well, I found that really interesting, and I want to thank you for joining us tonight, Paddy. I'm hoping that we can extend this friendship, in the future, and perhaps get you on again or whatever else. Because when I did hear you talk about it the time before, and I know there'll be people that have listened to this and they're just like, "That's like as Meph said or whatever." That's fucking insane. But on the flip side, every one of us is playing our own meta game within these games. We all have things different, things we're trying to achieve or things that keep us going beyond the game. And yours is such a unique one because so many people are like, I'm climbing the leaderboards, or I'm going to get 100% completion, or I'm going to do this or whatever. It is a really unique one, and it really lines up with, I will never do what you're doing, but it lines up with my interest and passion for acquiring and playing so many different games, and just through time, maybe only playing a small section of those. And I'm sure there's a ton of stuff we could talk about on that as well in the future, about perhaps games that you've started that you just haven't been able to get back to because of this or whatever else that you perhaps would never have discovered without this sort of a bean dive as well. So I think there's a ton sort of wrapped up in there. But I do want to thank you so much for giving up some of your time this morning.
No, I appreciate being asked to come on, and I like talking, not necessarily about myself. I just like talking in general. So it's always nice when people want to have a chat, especially that I've been in competitions with yourself and talking to you briefly through different avenues, and it's just nice to actually chat amongst you both.
I'm not too bad for a pony, I'm told sometimes.
Yeah, the dark side of the gaming world.
Yeah, it's slowly winning me over, I can tell you. And as always, thanks, Meph. Is there anything else you want to throw out there?
I do have a couple of quick things. I want to say, first of all, Paddy's not going to like this, but congrats to his brother Jimsy for hitting 1 million Gamerscore.
Oh, wow.
That happened since our last recording. I was always going to say thanks, well done to him, because we got to know him a little bit. I haven't spoken to him properly for a while, but from what I understand, I think it's the only brothers that are both over 1 million Gamerscore in the world, so that's something.
Congratulations.
That have separate tags anyway, I've been told. I also want to say a congrats to someone else I know, Wolf Cry Gaming. He is actually a friend of mine. I know him in real life, and he's now number 2 in my city of Adelaide for Gamerscore, behind me, of course. So that's congrats to him. He's been trying for a long time and finally overtook Random Nutter. So congrats to him. And yeah, anyone else don't get any congrats. Just those two.
Everyone else has to try harder for next time when we're back. So thanks so much for listening. If you made it this far, you are hardcore, you are degenerate, but God, we're having fun, aren't we, with the games? Have a great time. We'll catch you. We'll catch you when we do. See you around.
Bye.